Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Remote Real Estate Investor. I'm Michael Albaum, and today I'm joined by my co-host,
Tom Schneider.
And we have with us two very special guests, Heath Silverman and Jonah Schwartz. And they are two of the co-founders of Stessa. And so we actually have some really exciting news. Roofstock and Stessa have recently joined forces to combine into one. And so we are going to be interviewing these two gentlemen, and they're going to be telling us about what Stessa is, how investors can use it, and where they see it going in the future. So let's get into it.
Jonah and Heath, welcome to the podcast.
Great to be here.
Thanks.
Awesome. So super excited about this episode, getting to learn about Stessa. But before we get into that, I'd love to hear the founder story, a little bit about you guys individually and then coming together, all the good stuff. So I'll let you guys go ahead and just take it from here.
So yeah, I'm Heath, and I've been working in tech for about 20 years and investing in real estate for almost as long. I've known Jonah since the very beginning of both of those journeys. We've known each other since undergrad at Cal. And that's
Go
now
Bears.
been
Go
Bears.
Bears. we were joking offline that we're finally adding some more bears at the Roofstock Stessa ecosystem. So yep, go Bears. Sorry, interrupting. Go ahead.
Yeah, definitely go Bears. And as it turns out, we actually started our first company together back in 1999 and sold it in 2000. It was a company called mycomics.com, the largest online community for comic strip creators and their fans. And I actually took some of that money, some of the proceeds from that sale, and bought my first investment property in 2001, which was a house hack. So for the past 20 years, been really into real estate, been at multiple tech companies, and excited to be working with Jonah again. And I think we'll probably get a little bit more into the founding of Stessa in a bit.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I'm Jonah Schwartz, the CTO and co-founder at Stessa. So yeah, I started my career doing sort of like early engineer at startups, founding engineer, and finally founder at a few different startups. Everything from sort of enterprise software, telecom software. My last startup was a company called Dot and Bow that sold e-commerce for furniture and home decor.
We didn't start off, I would say, knowing that we were going to do a real estate technology company. We were playing around with a whole bunch of various ideas around like future of work, but we kept getting distracted, and we did a deep dive on one of our properties, which was an 8-unit building in Oakland. Over the period of a couple.
Was this one of your first acquisitions that you guys made?
This was sort of a later acquisition. I think, we really started off with single family rentals at the beginning, and we were buying distressed properties in the far East Bay. I guess our whole real estate journey together started post-financial crisis around 2009, buying up a lot of these distressed buildings. And then we slowly started 1031 exchanging and transitioning into more multifamily buildings that were closer in Oakland and thereabouts. And this particular property was a multifamily building in Oakland that we just had kind of let run itself. We hadn't done too much to optimize over time. And so we did this deep dive to, it was just an easy way to kind of pass the time because we could see immediate results rather than these big ideas we had about, starting a new company. And over a period of a couple of weeks, we literally, we doubled the value of the building through a combination of operational efficiencies and also bringing a number of the rents to market. So, we created real value. We took these numbers to a bank, the new numbers to a bank, and with multifamily, they look at the numbers and like, hey, yeah, here's a cash out refi, and we took that, and then we went and acquired another building. So in the end, we were just really, I would say, shocked by how much value we were able to create in such a short amount of time. And we had 3 very big takeaways since we were all about takeaways at that time as we were trying to think of our new company. So one is real estate investors. Why are we not doing these same techniques? I would say to all of our properties in our portfolio. And then 2 is as tech product people. Hey, there's probably something that we can build here. We could definitely automate a lot of this with technology. And then 3, as entrepreneurs, we went out and we started talking to other real estate investors in the same space and ran the idea by them. And they said, hey, this is fantastic. If you create this, I'm definitely going to use this. So we realized that there was a business opportunity here as well.
I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. Did you say that you added almost double the value in a matter of weeks?
Yeah. So, and this is going to be off the top of my head, but it's a combination. We found a water leak, right? So we were able to reduce the water bill dramatically. We swapped out property management and got those operating expenses down. We swapped out our landscaper and janitorial. We were able to, it was a building in Oakland, so it was theoretically under rent control, but we found out that a number of the units were actually under more of a, I can't remember what it was called, but it was equivalent to Section 8. So we were able to get them up to fair market value. So the FMR rents for the area, we just submitted a letter, and it was 30 days, I think, and the rents were up. When all was said and done, and this was a building I think that we acquired for just under $1 million, and we got, I would say, between OpEx and CapEx about $3,000 a month. Yeah, so at a 4 cap at the time, that's about $1 million in value created that we did over a couple weeks, just from OpEx and income increases.
But we should also mention this is actually like quite a bit of work, right? It's like reading the details of every agreement with government agencies, going over like all the utility bills to find savings, renegotiating contract with the new property manager, like offloading and onboarding onto the new property manager. This is like, a lot of paperwork, which is nobody's favorite thing. And like, when I say paperwork, we're talking about like real paper. Like our old property manager like shipped us a box of files. It's like, oh, we're not your manager anymore. Here, take these.
Yeah.
So
enjoy.
We also felt the pain of sort of the paperwork side of being a landlord, going out for a new loan, convincing the bank that the property is now worth this, even though we bought it for quite a bit less, less than 2 years ago. Yeah, there's a lot of like record keeping and paper pushing to do.
BRRR at the big apartment level of a building. That's really cool. So circling on Stessa. So where was Stessa in going through this exercise of identifying this property and just immediately, putting in paperwork, the hard work, and creating so much value? Where did Stessa fit kind of in context of this exercise?
Yeah, I mean, we did this exercise and we said, hey, this is something that we should be doing for all of our properties. We want to use technology to automate a lot of that paperwork that Jonah was talking about. And that's really where Stessa came in. So we started talking to, hundreds of other real estate investors to understand what their needs were. And the big thing that we learned is that across most asset classes, there are a lot of technology tools to help you better manage your portfolio. So, whether it's, just plain software or even, for more traditional asset classes like, stocks, people have access to robo-advisors. And we realized, hey, when talking to all these guys, really the only tool that the small investor used to track their holdings was a spreadsheet. And for most of these investors, because they weren't always necessarily on top of everything going on, that often meant a out-of-date spreadsheet. And even further, when we spoke to people, we realized that most of these investors, they had no clue if they made or lost money except one time a year when they got the returns from their accountant. So after doing all that, we said, hey, let's start with the financials. That seems like the one area where these individual investors can get the most value immediately. We can automate a lot of what is happening in their spreadsheet. And then eventually, as we get more and more sophisticated, we'll be able to do some really interesting things around helping them to optimize their portfolio to maximize value and to help them as investors sort of grow throughout the journey, throughout their own journey of owning and building out their portfolio as real estate investors.
So, Heath, you bring out kind of some great points that I really would love to dig into more. And if you both could give us a high level of what is it that Stessa does, what is the functionality as it stands today, and maybe where is Stessa looking to go as far as functionality and capabilities go looking forward?
Yeah, I mean today, so Stessa gives the millions of investors with single family rentals, multifamily buildings, and short-term rentals, really just a powerful way to track, manage, and report on their property. So that's everything from automating income and expense tracking to maximizing profits with visual dashboards to organizing all their documents. That's an important one. Jonah was talking about paperwork, and then saving time with tax-ready financials. From
someone who's rapidly trying to, thank goodness the IRS have pushed it back a month. I'm like scrambling right now and getting my documents in a row. And excited to get my portfolio more integrated, with the Stessa product and tax related stuff. So just interrupting there and commenting on the headaches of an investor in getting ready for tax season.
Tom, do you find yourself scrambling every single year? So are you consistent, or is this year unique?
It's kind of unique, but I mean, you just like, you add properties, you sell properties, you're 1031, but it's like, and there's these just additional, and as you're scaling, it's like this kind of overhead is scaling as well. And, I don't know, it's not that bad. I mean, it's, excited to lean in a little bit to more, some of these tools. So, adding on to Michael's questions on the product. So, what all was in that kind of initial product set, and how did it evolve over time? I'm curious more about kind of functionality and features and all that good stuff.
We definitely started with that dashboard, and having a dashboard that was like sort of purpose built for real estate, where you just type in your address and we look up everything that we can find about the property, public records, we get the photo, we get the street view, we scrape from MLS. Investors for the first time were seeing a dashboard similar to like when they open their E-Trade and see their stock portfolio. That was a big deal. Then we started letting people connect their banks and bring in transactions. And then because we were purpose built for real estate, we could have a lot more internal smarts than, a sort of a general purpose accounting solution. So over time, we really evolved into, the accounting for your landlording business or for your real estate investments, and then started adding on, documents and a lot of other functionality to sort of fill out that whole suite of paperwork tools. When we've started dipping our toe into and really excited to go into is okay, we have all this data, we're preparing your reports. When your bank calls you and says they need, your latest rent roll or statement of real estate owned to make sure your loan is still in good standing, it's one click. But we can start recommending insights to users about how they can optimize their portfolio, how they're benchmarking against other landlords in their area. And, now that we're part of Roofstock, we can suggest other properties that, might go really well with the properties they already own. And so that's really exciting going forward.
That's awesome. Start playing offense. Heath, are there any particular features that stand out to you that you are use more regularly, or I guess, I don't know, like more?
Definitely being able to email in receipts and documents and have them automatically, the important information, especially on receipts, the vendor, the amount, everything automatically pulled out, categorized. It is just the biggest time saver ever for me. And that has got to be my most favorite functionality.
That's so cool.
Heath and I are sort of crazy power users of the software. We're using every corner case feature, that some of these features are like even hard to discover, like OFX upload and collaboration across portfolios, or one person is a silent partner and has no equity, and read-only access. There's a lot of functionality in there. And one thing that we're always going back to is, okay, that's great to have like all the functionality for the power users, but it's also really important to us that people with one property, two properties looking to maybe acquire their third are gonna, get a lot of value. And we don't want to overwhelm people with features. It's more about having the software like purpose built where they have to do the least amount of work to get like the most value out of it.
What feature out there do you think more people would use if they better understood it? Or like, you know what I'm saying? Like what's a feature maybe you released that you thought like, oh man, people are going to love this. And maybe they would, but they're just like not.
It's a lurking feature. They don't know about it.
I know in talking to you guys before, the document storage stuff, like I think is amazing, but it just doesn't have a huge adoption. Like some, are there any features that you guys think about like that this is a good platform to kind of, talk about it?
I mean, if it's a lurking feature, the first one that comes to my mind, and Jonah might have a different, is just collaboration. In the early days, when we were talking to people, one of our big insights was that many investors out there buy with partners. And we built some initial collaboration functionality because Jonah and I buy together and we have a third partner, and sometimes we buy with other partners. So we built some pretty comprehensive capabilities to invite partners and assign whether they're read-only or a manager and all this. But then it's just one of those things that we didn't really promote in a big way. And it's somewhat hidden, I would say, but the people who do use it and have figured out how to effectively collaborate with the platform, when you do have multiple properties and you do have multiple investors, or you have silent partners, you want to stay up to date of what's happening with the portfolio, it's incredibly valuable.
Specifically for syndicated funds, like it sounds like an ideal product for that kind of a clientele. Do you guys get a lot of those types of customers?
In the early days, we were actually selling a premium version of the software to syndicated funds, but we ended up deciding to instead really focus on these small investors, people with 2 to 30 units under management, because there were just so many more of them, and we saw such a bigger need for those guys. The syndicated funds were a bit more sophisticated and did have access to more tools, whereas these individual investors, people more like us, really had a bigger need for the software. And also they were, as over the years, they've started to, I would say, come to expect software like Stessa with the consumerization of a lot of financial tools, right? So the opportunity was there, the need was there. We moved a bit away from the syndicated funds.
Yeah, I would say it's a feature that, we might look at bringing back, but it turns out the needs of like an LP, looking at like their investment is a little bit different than like an operator. Like you don't want to show necessarily the LP like the tenant's name and how far in arrears the tenant is. Like that could be a recipe for
the LP's head's gonna explode.
Right. So LP might need waterfall of financial flows, like that type of thing. We have the data all there, but we have, as Heath said, focused on people like sort of owner operators or owners who are might use a property manager for operations, but still want to be in the details of their property.
That's a great segue. So in thinking about an investor and their kind of ecosystem of, they're working with a property manager, they probably work with a CPA, like where would you describe, and maybe this is a little bit stepping back a little bit in the conversation, but like Stessa fits in this because, someone might say like, oh, I have a portal for my property manager. Like, why do I need some other tool on top of that? Like what's kind of what would be the best way to kind of describe Stessa in that kind of thinking of the overarching ecosystem where you already have a PM with a dashboard?
So we have always thought of Stessa as being about asset management versus about being, property or operations management. And asset management is all the things that you're doing. You're thinking about, ongoing portfolio optimization and those big decisions at the life cycle moments. Hey, when is the right time to refinance? When is the right time to buy or sell? These are not traditionally things that your property manager is going to help you with. And then also when you think about something like tax time, with a property manager, they only do so much. Many individual investors are still paying their property taxes separately on their own. They're paying off in their mortgage on their own. And what we do is we take all that together and bubble it all up into one interface, one report, one place where you can see everything together, and make it just that much easier for people to make those big decisions that they need to make every now and again for their portfolio. That being said, we do have integrations with some of the top property managers because a fair number of our users do use property management, and you can link the accounts, basically the owner portal from your property management accounts, and we'll automatically import that data into Stessa to automate it all and integrate it with your other personal or property bank account information so you can see it all together.
It's a good way to sort of keep tabs on your property manager. Just sometimes that property manager portal gives you like a PDF once a month, or it's a little bit hard to read. We'll do alerting, let you chart it over time. And so, say you have a few properties and one of them, the R&M expenses are like way out of whack, like you'll see that pretty quick in Stessa, whereas with property manager, it might sort of all blend together.
Is it fair or accurate to say that Stessa is kind of like the equivalent of Mint in that respect, in that it's aggregating so much of the financial picture and giving you a health check, if you will, or a status?
I think that certainly the financial piece, there's some overlap with what Mint, started at, which was sort of letting you pull down transaction records from your bank, trying to do some auto categorization, and then letting you run some reports or budgeting based on it. The fact that we are, sort of purpose built for real estate means our categories are a lot different than like a Mint category. Mint
Right.
might have like retail or entertainment. We're like R&M plumbing or utilities, sewer, right? So we're really, really trying to break things down using all the data on our platform. We have like machine learning models that are now classifying those transactions into the right categories, and the categories are very much IRS compatible, tax time compatible, but also give investors good insight into like what's happening in their property.
No, I think that's great. I think that's like the Mint and so much of the financial services world gets spotlighted for investors who are just getting into their first property. They understand that world that, okay, I've got to get my financial house in order. And now to equate that to, hey, you've got to get your real estate house in order too. And a program like Stessa or software like Stessa is a perfect integration for them. I think is really, really great.
I love just the kind of canary in the coal mine, like at least with Mint, like just the cash flow kind of month over month. It's kind of a similar aspect.
You see what's going on. Yeah.
You see what's going on. Real quick, I'd love to hear, you talked a little bit about you guys previously used, had a product for funds, but then you guys transitioned to more of kind of a broader, like hearing a little bit more about the different kind of profiles of users. Is it more like what's sort of the sweet spot for Stessa users?
The sweet spot, or I guess the user today, is often an individual investor with 2 to 30 doors, and they're really looking to reduce complexity and increase transparency, I would say, across their portfolio. So that's everybody from somebody who is a financial freedom person who's doing it as their side hustle, has a couple properties trying to make some money, to a mom and pop landlord, maybe somebody they have a day job and they're managing their properties on the weekend, to even we have a number of full-time real estate investors, people with multiple LLCs and portfolios, who are using it to run their business. So when we look at our numbers, I believe it's around our average user has about 4 doors, and then our top most engaged users, they have an average of nearly 8 doors per investor. So, it's people with multiple doors, multiple properties who are really looking to bring everything together in one place and, have a centralized system of record and have a way to really automate a lot of their asset management.
Why do you think the upper end is at 30, Heath? What happens around that point with landlords or owners, operators?
Often when you get to over 30 doors, or if you're doing single family rentals, over 30 properties, you're getting on the verge of being too professional. And in that case, you can still use Stessa, but you're probably going to you might have an analyst or somebody whose full-time job is just to be your asset manager. Right.
Got it. Okay.
In that case, Stessa no longer really makes sense.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you have a full-time bookkeeper, that's when maybe you're not using Stessa anymore. Stessa's letting people, achieve those results, but keep their day job. At least that's what it did for us.
Awesome. So it sounds like there's so much functionality built into this, and it sounds like this will be such a great tool for so many of our Roofstock listeners and users. It's got to be expensive. I mean, how much does access to Stessa cost?
So today, Stessa is totally free. You can use all the functionality at no cost. We do have some value-added services that are that we do charge for. So, for instance, you can buy a rent report to see rental comps in the neighborhood around your property. This is very helpful when you're turning a unit and you need to know what to charge for an incoming tenant. But all the functionality that we were just talking about, all that is free.
It's amazing.
Fantastic. Yeah.
The last question that I have, and one of my favorite questions, is looking into a crystal ball over the next 12 months. Would love to hear what you guys thinking about as far as functionality, product set, all that good stuff.
So we've been at Roofstock now for just over 3 weeks, and every conversation we have, there are so many, with people in the company, there are so many obvious synergies between Stessa and Roofstock. It is crazy. There are so many interesting directions that we can go. But our goal for 2021 is really to focus. And, we want to make it so it's really easy for Stessa users to grow their portfolios and sell their properties through the Roofstock marketplace. We want to make it really easy for Roofstock customers to get their properties into Stessa and easily manage and optimize them, right? So most simply, between the combination of Roofstock's marketplace and Stessa's sort of self-service owner tools, we want to do as much meaningful or add as many meaningful integration touch points as possible that we can help streamline the whole ownership lifecycle.
That's great.
Yeah, I just did a webinar, and that was like the question I had. So I'm glad I got to ask it, and I think that makes a lot of sense of kind of taking a step back and just making sure it's integrated on both sides and being thoughtful about it, and love it. Michael, do you have any other questions?
My last question is, and I already know the answer, and I was pretty blown away by it. Where did the name come from, Stessa?
So Stessa is assets backwards.
Yeah.
Which is funny, like when I'm wearing my Stessa t-shirt, and with the video mirrored, it just like says assets when you get it onto it. So I like it.
That's great.
I think back when we were starting Stessa, your AI bot had to have a name. You had to have Siri or Alexa, and we were, Stessa sounded like a nice. I would trust Stessa with my tablet.
I would totally trust Stessa.
Punchy, 2-syllable, yeah, with a little twist on the back, the reverse assets. Beautiful.
That's great.
Heath and Jonah, thank you so much for jumping on today, and also welcome to Roofstock. Welcome Stessa.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, excited to be here.
Alrighty, everybody, that was our episode. A big, big, big thank you to Heath and Jonah. That was a lot of fun and super interesting. I know I learned a lot, Tom. I think you learned a lot as well about some of the functionality around Stessa, and I know I've got to go update my account immediately. So again, big thank you to those guys, and thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, feel free to leave us a rating or review wherever it is you listen to episodes. We always welcome feedback and new episode ideas. So we look forward to seeing you on the next one. Happy investing.
Happy investing.